start with you. There's many different provisions here, but how would this be able to strengthen developers' hand?
What we are seeking to do through this legislative proposal, and it is very bipartisan. I thank my partner here, Senator Blackburn, for her great work, is essentially to break the ironclad grip that these two companies, Apple and Google, are exploiting to raise costs for consumers, but also block innovation and invention on these Apple and Google app stores. What's really important is they're able to block the innovators here. They can copy and kill. They extract a rent of 30%, and they use information from these developers to compete against them and prefer their own apps. So what we're trying to do essentially is open these markets to fair and full competition.
Senator Blackburn, it's Dominic here. If you take a look at the way this legislation has been crafted, it looks into trying to at least ease some of the issues that these app developers feel, financially speaking. We know that the commissions that they pay have been a hotspot for many of them before. They allege that Apple and Google shouldn't be able to charge the kinds of fees that they do. How much was the economic motivation behind this particular bill as opposed to some of the consumer protections that are out there as well?
Well, Dominic, I tell you, when you look at the situation in total, and what we hear from some of these developers is this: if you take away the anti-competitive behavior that Apple and Google exercise on a lot of these small developers who would really like to have their apps in an app store, but they're basically prohibited from using third-party app stores. Well, first of all, you are slowing down innovation, making it more difficult to innovate. You're making it more difficult for these individuals to get funding, venture capital, angel funding, things of that nature, because people are saying, well, what is the payout going to be if Google and Apple are going to come in and take a big chunk? Now, that does threaten the bottom line. But I also look at this as a huge opportunity cost. And this is why Senator Blumenthal and also Senator Klobuchar, why we have worked together to say, okay, how do we solve this so that we open these avenues of opportunity for more developers who are looking for a way to the marketplace?
So on that note, Senator Blumenthal, let me pick it back up here and say, what would your world look like, if this bill garners support, if it comes to pass, goes into practice? How would it change the experience that a lot of us users have as it relates to using, especially in the U.S. here, our iPhones in the App Store?
Those third-party apps and developers would have equal access without these exploitive fees and without the intimidation and stranglehold that Apple and Google impose. And Senator Blackburn is right, and it actually was very dramatically demonstrated not only by the epic trial in suing Apple, but by the hearing that Senator Klobuchar had in the antitrust subcommittee of the Judiciary Committee, where we all serve. These kinds of barriers to competition really prevent the lifeblood of our economy, which is innovation, from going forward with new apps and new designs, innovations, lower costs to consumers. So this world would be a lot more hospitable to innovation and invention.
A lot more hospitable. And Senator Blackburn, again, to ask you to elaborate on that, does that mean that I, as a user, might have multiple app stores on my phone? Are these provisions that would more relate to developers and their ability to kind of have that one-on-one data relationship with me as the customer and have better communications? What is the end goal here?
Well, you will see a little bit of all of that. You would have other app store opportunities if you get rid of some of this anti-competitive behavior. We've talked about the Epic situation and looking at this payment system and being forced to use the App Store's in-app payment system, preventing developers from communicating directly with consumers, having to go through that that app, such as, to offer them a chance to download an app directly from the developer's website, which many users of apps would like to have that direct interface with the app developer. So I think you would see greater business to consumer communication, as well as more options for an app store that would host some of these innovations.
What about, Senator Blumenthal, the case being made here that if Apple and Google, just for example, do not control some of that in-app payment system, some of the other application distribution tools, that you could open a lot of consumers up to fraud, to cybersecurity issues, to privacy issues? Many of the things that these gatekeepers, so to speak, do is protect people's privacy and user data. That's the case they would make, right?
That's the case they are trying to make. It is totally a pretext to maintain their monopoly position. And it is not only disingenuous, it's ironic, because they're the ones who are actually invading privacy and stealing data from the developers. And all the while they're saying, oh, well, we're the privacy protectors. In fact, our legislation in Section 4 has a specific provision that protects privacy even more than it is now. So this kind of argument is totally bogus. And I think it is going to be absolutely transparent that actually privacy would be better protected with this legislation.
All right, a bipartisan look at big technology. Thank you very much, Senators Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee and Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut. And we did, by the way, reach out to both Apple and Google parent company Alphabet for comment. We have not heard back yet, but if we do, Kelly, we will, of course, bring all of those details to you folks.
Absolutely. A lot happening on the sort of innovation front in the Senate this week.
All right.